What's up guys, Dylan here from Veteran Aquatics. As you can see behind me, I got this nice banner made by my boy Brian Luna. You can find him on Facebook at Aquarium Gifts with a Z. You can also go to aquariumgifts.com and he can hook you up with all kinds of aquarium related gifts, merchandise, and in this case he made me a custom banner which I will be able to bring with me to things like events. That way people can more easily identify me, and it'll kind of bring attention to my table and make it look more professional overall. So, what are we talking about today? Now, I tossed this idea around a bit, and I decided to do it, one, to call these kind of folks out, and two, to let other people know that not everybody is like this, and that there are in fact good, helpful people in the hobby. So today's video is going to be about, in my opinion, the top 5 worst types of internet fish keepers. We all know them, we've all seen them. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, this is going to be number 5, so we're going from least worst to worst, if that makes sense. Number 5 is going to be people who think that their fish tanks are worth a ton of money used. We've all seen them on Marketplace, we've all seen them in the buy-sell trade groups, but when you have somebody with a tank like this, it's really, really almost insulting, especially with things like the Petco $1 per gallon sale going right now. You can buy a brand new 10-gallon tank for 10 bucks. Get a lid and a light and call it a day. I mean, a 10-gallon tank sits on anything. The stand's not necessary. You could literally put it on a coffee table. This kind of stuff really annoys me. I mean, it's one thing when you get into big tanks. Big tanks can be worth a lot of money, especially if they're like the retro tanks, the steel frame tanks. But a regular 10-gallon fish tank is not worth almost $100, even if you have a light and a stand with it. Everything else can be sourced much cheaper. Stop doing this. Like, if it's below 100 gallons, dude, it's like 50 to 75 cents a gallon, generally speaking. Above 100 gallons, $1.25 to $2 a gallon, depending on how big the tank is. And also, you have to include equipment with that. Number 4, tank size Nazis. Now, we see this all the time, and I'm in a lot of different like fishy Facebook groups, and all the time somebody will have like a small, I don't know, let's say a goldfish, like a baby goldfish in a 20-gallon tank. And you'll just have people swarm and harass them like, that fish is going to get 8 to 10 inches long, you need a 220-gallon tank for that. Okay, that's great, but it's a baby. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people do stuff like that. It's called a grow-out tank. I have fish that don't belong in tanks because they're small still. That's the great thing about fish. When they're small, you can keep them in a small tank. I understand, well, hopefully what their intention is to bring awareness to the individual posting that, hey, this fish will get large and will need a bigger tank, and some people put it that way, and that's fine. But it's the people that swarm and harass and beat down these new fish keepers that make people not want to ask questions. And the only thing worse than asking a stupid question is not asking a question at all. I'd rather answer a question that I find to be silly or simple than have that person not ask and not know. Yes, we know Google is the thing. Stop posting, use Google. If they wanted to use Google, they would have used Google. What they wanted to do was pull from the experience of experienced fish keepers to gain the knowledge that we have firsthand as a fish keeper, because you can Google a lot of stuff and you can find a lot of wrong information on Google. So before you jump down someone's throat and yell at them for not Googling something, answer their question. And again, they're trying to pull from experienced fish keepers. I'd much rather, and I answer questions all the time, even questions I find silly, or questions I know can be Googled, or questions I know I've put on YouTube before. I will always answer these questions because they're asking me that question because they want my knowledge and my experience, not trying to dig through Google to find the correct answer. Now, this may seem a little hypocritical, but when you see examples like the one I'm about to show you, you'll understand why. My third most irritating fish keeper are monster fish keepers that stuff these huge fish in tiny tanks. Now, we're not talking about baby grow-outs anymore. We're talking about full-size gar and pacu and arowana stuffed in a 180-gallon tank. Kind of like this one. Now, I went to a fish store with my father-in-law recently, and they had a similar thing. They had a 220, but they had 2 red-tailed catfish, they had peacock bass. Like, this tank was stuffed full of fish that are not supposed to be in there. That's just simple. Like, a lot of these huge monster fish, these tiger shovelnose, these red-tailed cats, like, they cannot be kept in anything short of a pond. I see people getting excited and buying arapaima. You shouldn't have arapaima. Nobody should be keeping arapaima unless you have literally an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and even that is too small, right? These are huge monster fish that do not belong in somebody's home aquarium, short of enormous indoor ponds. So these monster fish keepers, they're ridiculous. They buy these fish knowing that they're not going to be able to keep them. And that's why things like the Ohio Fish Rescue exist. I love the Ohio Fish Rescue. I love what they do. Big Rich, they're great. They do an awesome job. They perform a very important thing for the hobby. And they're equipped to keep these huge monster fish. You at home probably aren't. I know they look cool. I know everybody wants to be a monster fish keeper. Go get you a 220-gallon tank and a pair of Jaguar cichlids and you'll be happy, I promise. You do not need a 3-foot-long shovel-nosed catfish. So, number 3, monster fish keepers that don't actually know how to keep monster fish. So number 2, the people that try to give advice, but give the wrong advice. It happens a lot, and here, I'll show you an example. Somebody posted a picture of a fish that had what looked to me to be like fin rot, maybe ick, but look at all the different suggestions. Nobody took the time to like really decide what the correct answer was, and this poor person posting the picture of this fish has no idea what to treat for anymore, because they got 16 different answers on what could be wrong with the fish. Now, I applaud these folks for attempting to be helpful, because that's what they were all doing. Nobody gave them bad advice on purpose. Most of the time, when somebody gives you bad advice, it's not on purpose. In this case, though, it ends up being extremely unhelpful, and it makes the person trying to figure out what is wrong with their fish not able to figure out what is wrong with their fish. They were given too many different answers, and they are not going to know what to do. So, if you don't know for sure the answer to a question, don't guess at it, please. A lot of these people asking these questions just don't know. And if you're giving advice and you're not sure of the answer, just wait, because there's a ton of fish keepers out there that probably do know the answer. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but please stop doing it. Now it's time for number 1. The number 1 worst internet fish keeper is the person giving bad advice on purpose. I know you've probably seen this too, and if you're one of those people, stop doing that, because you're ruining the hobby for others, creating potentially harmful situations for their fish, and turning people off from the hobby. I'm all about including new people. I give people tanks, I give people fish all the time just to get them in the hobby. I will do it all the time. I will rope somebody into this hobby any way I can, but I will make it a good experience. Now, those people that, for example, somebody will post a question saying, what can I keep with an Oscar? And they have a 125-gallon tank. But then you have people start shooting off tiger shovelnose, red-tailed catfish, and this kind of ties into the last two because it's part of the same thing. Or I've seen people like, oh, I have this ground meat, what can I put in there? Oh, go get a gar, right? You know that that's bad advice. Somebody else might not, right? The same, it happens all the time. People purposely giving out bad advice to trolls, they're trolling people. You are the worst kind of internet fish keeper, and I sincerely hope you just get out of the hobby and leave all the Facebook groups and stop pouring your toxicity into other people. This is an enjoyable hobby where more experienced fish keepers can give their knowledge, their experience to less experienced fish keepers to make them better fish keepers overall. And that is what I enjoy doing the most, and that is why I made the YouTube channel. I wanted to document my experience as I grew as a fish keeper, as my fish room grew, as I learned more and more and more, and was able to bring that information to you guys in a nicely presented, easy to understand manner, where it kind of ends up just being me talking to you as the viewer, and that's what I want. Positivity in this hobby, and I have so many positive influences in this hobby. Michael from Michael's Fish Room, Scott McLaughlin from King and Queen Cichlids, my buddy Chris Matsko, great dude, all have been extremely helpful to me. all have given me information, all have never looked down upon me because they've been in the hobby for longer than I have or had more experience with this fish. They've all happily volunteered this information to make me a better fish keeper. And that is what we should all be doing. So don't sell your tanks for a ton of money. Don't give bad advice to people. Don't be a tank size Nazi. Give correct information. And don't be a troll. Nobody likes a troll. And I know you're just doing it for attention because nobody pays attention to you, or maybe somebody made fun of your setup. Shouldn't make fun of people's stuff. Give them good information in a tactful manner. If you see somebody post a picture of a Pacu in a 55-gallon tank, that's when you go, hey man, I'm not sure if you're aware, but that Pacu's gonna get huge. You're either gonna need to get an indoor pond or find someplace that is gonna accept a fish of that size. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but this is just the reality of the situation. And that's how it should go, right? People that are purposely jerks, people that purposely give wrong information, like, oh, what size tank do I need for a tiger shovel nose? Oh yeah, put it in a 75-gallon tank. That's a horrible idea. Alright, so that's kind of it, guys. I know this is not the typical kind of video I make. I generally try to be a really positive fish keeper, but having a couple days off from work, spending a little bit more time scrolling through these groups, I got really sick and tired of it. So let me know down below what you guys think is the worst type of fish keeper. I mean, that's a pretty narrow spectrum considering all of the crap that I see on Facebook and on the forums and stuff like that. But try to be a positive influence. Try to include people, try to elevate them as fish keepers, improve the hobby if you can, and if you can't, let those that can do it. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I don't mean to be super negative. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. You guys are slaying it. We're almost at 1,700. If you don't know, yesterday was actually my 1-year YouTube anniversary. So in 1 year, we got almost 1,700 subs. We got monetized. We built 2 fish rooms. We've been breeding a ton of stuff. So the last year since I started YouTube has been wild. And I'm super, super, super excited to see what comes going forward. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy your fish tanks, and I will see you next time.